All right.
Hi.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
everyone.
Hello.
Hello. We'll get started in a second. Just so you know, this is being recorded. So in case people miss it, I'm going to post recording to my website.
Oh, that's nice.
It is nice.
Yeah. Well, trying to get information out to us, in the best ways, as many ways as possible. So Linda was here before. Karen, you were here the last time too, right?
I wasn't in this one. I was in the Place Well with others.
Oh, right. That one.
Yeah.
That's coming right up. And is it Jens?
Yes, it's Jens.
Jens.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Good to see you.
Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Umbria, central Italy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You're most welcome.
Wine
And
country.
7 p.m. and it's good to see you all.
Great. I haven't spent much time in Umbria. It's one area I really want to go to more. I've been to the north and south, but
Yeah, they're fantastic places, I think, for doing music outside, for flute playing, for magic places, really.
let's do it. All right. And how do you say it? I can't read it. Gaelic? Okay. Yeah, you got to unmute.
Yes, I'm Galit. Yes.
Gaelic.
So
And where are
happy
you?
to be here.
Where are you?
I live in San Diego, but originally from Israel.
Oh, great. All right.
Yeah.
We have a diverse group here.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is a kind of short session, so let's get right into it. It's just a half an hour, basically. So this is an intro to the flute choir cards, and the goal of this session is just to kind of give you an overview of what the cards are, why we have them, what you can do with them. I do want to point out, and I'm going to do some screen sharing in a minute. I do have a video on my website on a page called Flute Choir Cards that gives you, I think, a pretty good overview and some examples of playing and how you might use them. But we're here live to, I'm here to answer some questions, and we can explore other options, or maybe you have an idea or a question particularly about how the cards could be used, so I'll help answer those. But in any event, if you haven't watched the video on my website, please watch that one. And there's also more videos available when you get the code. You get an envelope, and then you get the set of cards, and then inside there's a little directions for unlocking the hidden page that has more goodies on it. So I'll be showing you all of that. So the idea with the flute choir cards is that we want to play our flute, get the maximum amount of musicality from our flute, but hopefully avoid having to get into what we often call headspace, the analytical side, which often is associated with reading music, right? And I don't think any of us really enjoy having to read the notation, even if it's the diagram style like we use on the cards. It's still decoding things, and it sort of interrupts a lot of the flow of music making, and it can feel just cumbersome and make it less enjoyable. And it requires a lot of time and practice. So the idea with the cards is to have a way to immediately access music and make more music, but with a guide. I think of the flute choir cards as a guidance system, that's a little more gentle, a little more welcoming and accessible than reading traditional notation, but also something that is going to help people get from just playing over a drone, and just playing pure improvisation to somewhere in the middle, so that you can play over the chord progressions of songs, for example, and accompany songs that we know and love, but with a minimal amount of technical knowledge or requirement. You don't have to have a lot of technical experience or, you know, music theory or anything like that. So that's the idea. That's the reason I made the card. So I'll go over really quick. This is an example of one of the cards. And I know some of you were here before, but I'm going to show this again. So you'll see a number up here. There's 6 different numbers on the cards. With a set, there's 2 number 1s, and then there's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll explain what those are in a second. But you see this, we call this flute fingering diagrams, right? And these are very common. Actually, these are from my associate and friend, Clint Goss. You guys might know Clint from his website, Flutopedia, and Clinton Vera's classes and Clinton Vera's flute casts, podcasts, or videos on YouTube. If you're not familiar with them, please, you know, become familiar with what Clinton is doing. It's amazing. He's so prolific and very generous with the amount of information that he publishes, and they basically give everything away. And Clint is he's a computer guy and kind of an engineer guy, and so he's inventing a lot of things. But he actually designed this font, and you can download this font too if you want to do your own notation. You can go get this at I believe clintgoss.com or flutopedia.com. I think it's on clintgoss.com. And you can type in this from your keyboard. So this is a font. This is one letter on your keyboard. And is there anybody who is not familiar with this, you know, what this means or how to read it?
Is it this, the flute?
Yes. Yeah, pretty easy, right?
Yeah, I just wonder, you mentioned that it also applies to the keyboard. So that's the part I wasn't sure about.
Oh, I just meant that you can literally type these out by punching letters on your keyboard, on your computer keyboard.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just the whole thing appears. You don't have to go in and, you know, fill in all these dots and everything. Just this is one thing right here, except for this line, which I added. And so I'll explain what this is. So you can see the number 1. This is the number 1 card, and that corresponds to what we think of as the 1 chord of a key. So when we talk about music, right, and we say, let's say you've probably heard the term like 1, 4, 5 in terms of a chord progression. Let's play 1, 4, 5, or let's play the blues, and the blues has the chords 1, 4, and 5 spread out over 12 bars. Or some songs are 1 and 5. They're just 2 chords. And a lot of songs use a typical chord progression. Like, for example, there's a chord progression we think of as it's called the 50s chord progression. A lot of songs from the 50s and 60s use the same chord progression, which is 1, 6, 4, 5, or 1, 6, 2, 5. And then there's the pop chord progression, which is so many songs are written with what we call the pop chord progression, which is 1, 5, 6, 4. And there's some variations of that, but that's basically, and I hope I'm not getting too far ahead of anybody technically, but just to know that there's chord progressions, common chord progressions, meaning a sequence of chords, and that we label the chords in numbers starting with 1, and in the typical key, you know, typical song, we've got 7 chords. The 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, etc., up to 7. So in the key, let's just start with the key of C, because that's mainly what we're going to be talking about today. In the key of C, the C chord is the 1 chord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense? Mm-hmm. And then you go up 1 letter to D, just going down the alphabet. C, D is the 2 chord. E minor is the 3 chord. Some of them are major and some of them are minor. But you don't need to know that. All you need to know is there's a 1. These are the notes in the 1 chord. In this case, the C major chord. So you'll see right here, if you're using, okay, let me qualify one thing. These cards will work in any key. You just have to match the key, the key of your flute, with the key of the music. And I made a video on that, how to match your flute with the music background key. An A flute, and this is where it can get a little tricky, but it's actually pretty simple to figure out. An A flute, which we sometimes call an A minor flute, because all the Native American style flutes basically use the same key note relationships, right? We call that a pentatonic scale.
Mhm.
And the notes that you have from the first hole up to the sixth hole, the way when you finger those, you're going to get the same basic scale with all the Native American style flutes. And I'm not talking about any of the exotic flutes, the Asian style or Anasazi or the other kinds of keys. Just the main, most common flute design. If your flute is an A, then the major key that you're going to use, the accompaniment key, is going to be C. It's going to be the second hole. So one hole open at the bottom. So yeah, can you show us that? It's Jens or
Yes.
Jens. Yes, exactly. See what he's doing? So the bottom hole open. That note on an A flute is a C, right? So that's our key. That's our accompaniment key. So that's an A flute. If you had a G flute, what would that note be, do you think? The one hole open at the bottom. If you're on this is where you have to figure out what the key is. So it's going to be one whole step down, right?
Mhm.
So you can, if you're not familiar with the piano keyboard, you can go look up the notes on the piano and you can see all the note names, and you would just move down, from A, you move down to G, and then you can move your key note down the same amount. And it's easy to figure out the key. If you do that, you just do it the same amount. So if you move from A to G flutes, your accompaniment key is going to change from C to, anybody? I want to
B
guess.
flat.
B flat. Yeah, it's going to change from C to B flat. So that's all you have to know, is that it's 3 half steps up or a minor third. We call that the relative major of the key of your flute, because your flute is basically set up with the 6th degree of the scale on the bottom, or what we call La, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, La. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's got La on the bottom. La is the minor root. The A would be A minor, and then the relative major is C, is the first note up. So that's the key of your accompaniment. The way the cards are working is you've got all the notes of the chord. Yes? You have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, does that apply for the American flute that has only 5 holes?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check. Okay.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
The 5-hole flute, you're just going to be, well, really, there's just a couple notes that you're not going to be able to play on the 5-hole.
Okay.
But you can still play the accompaniment over the tracks, over the backing tracks. So we've got a C, right? And we've got an E, and we've got a G. So that's what these notes are, C, E, G.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the notes of the C major chord. So basically, these are just chord tones. These are your chord notes. What that means is that if you have a backing track and you want to play over a C chord, you can play any of these notes, right? And they're all going to fit perfectly. They're literally the chords of the notes of the chord. So all of these you can think of as safe notes, right? These are all in harmony. These are all going to blend. These are all going to work. The reason there's a line here is because that's indicating what we call the root of the chord, right? the actual home note of the chord. So in a C chord, that's a C, right? So that line indicates the most in harmony note, the bottom of the chord, and then the other notes are either the third or the fifth of the chord, the other parts of the chord. If I go to this one, this is our second degree of the scale. You see that the line here is moved. It's in the middle. That's because this is D, and we're talking about a D minor chord now on the second card in the key with an A flute. And so this is the root note. So that's all. This is not super important, only if you want to play the root of each chord and hear what that sounds like, or play kind of the safest note that you can play, the most in tune with the chord. And we'll be able to experiment with this in a minute. But that's what that is. That's all that's on the cards. So let's go look at now how to. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see. Oh, I think I need to. I want to show you where to find the video. If you go down here on my website, Flute Choir Cards, you can see all this, you know, the introduction video. That's also on my channel on YouTube. And I have to actually, I have to get one folder open because I didn't, here we go. All right. I didn't open it earlier. So let's look at a couple. We did this the other day, but I'm just going to do it again. So sorry for the repeat material, everybody that was here earlier, but we have to go through the process. So if we want to play a song that has two chords, a 1 chord and a 5 chord, in the key of C, that would be a C, right? Our 1 chord, and a G. Over here, the 5 chord is a G. So actually, those of you who would like to try right now, if you could, stay muted or mute your mics, and you can go back and forth. You can play these notes on the 1, and then just in your own timing, you might think about, a certain number of beats. Play the 1, and then play the 5, and then play the 1, and then play the 5. You can take a moment and do that. Oh, sorry. Okay, and I'm going to play a track from the backing tracks that you get access to. These are all on SoundCloud. I hope it's working now. I know there was a problem earlier where this playlist was actually set to private, but it says here that if you have a link that people can go to it, but apparently that wasn't what was happening. So I made the playlist public now. Hopefully it'll work for everybody. If it's not working, let me know. I'm going to select this play along track called A15 Jambalaya. We did this the other day. Jambalaya is a famous, folk song that uses 2 chords, the 1 and the 5. So I'm going to play this, and then if you'd like, you can play along and use the cards as a guide, and I'll go ahead and hold my fingers up to show you the 1 and the 5 where they are, but you should be able to hear it in the music. Is that loud enough? Maybe not.
No music.
No music?
No music.
Okay, so we might have to troubleshoot for a second. Let me go back to Zoom and see if it's picking up the audio. Let's see. So I need to have... I thought I had set that the other day. So it says audio and...
Well, the other day you had set for, what do you call it, real sound? Oh, original sound. Yesterday
still-
you set it for original sound and it's still on. The problem is screen sharing with sound, but we tried that yesterday and you said your setup was different, so it didn't work. I mean, I can tell you how to do screen share with sound, but it might not work if you have a different setup from mine.
Right, okay.
Do you
Well,
want me
I
to
thought
give
we
it a
did it
try?
the other day. I thought it worked with the sound.
It did work. I don't know. Let me just tell you what I do for it. I go down to screen share and then I go to advanced.
Uh-huh.
And then once I get to advanced, there's 3 choices at the top. And one of the choices is screen share with sound or something like that.
Right,
It's sound
okay.
only.
Right, okay. Advanced sharing options.
Right. Once you go to advanced, then you have 3 choices, and one of them is where you share only sound. It's in the center at the top.
All right, let me see.
I can't see what you're seeing, so I'm just.
So I'm seeing one participant can share at a time, multiple participants can share simultaneously, advanced sharing options.
Right. Go to advanced sharing options.
Yeah, I don't see anything about sound on here, unfortunately. It just says how many, who can share, who can start sharing.
Oh, you might be in help or something like that, or the settings instead. Did you go to the menu at the bottom?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't have anything. So, I don't know. Well, I can turn the volume up over here a little bit louder and aim my microphone at my speaker. Let's try that. So, oh, you know what? Under advanced, oh, music or computer sound only.
Yeah, computer sound only.
Yeah.
Music
okay.
or computer sound only is the one that I use.
But does that mean I can't share my screen too?
Yeah, you can share your screen too, I think. Why don't you just click on it? You can always get out of a screen share. It's not a problem.
Okay, well, okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can get the audio working first. Here, I shared the computer audio.
There you go. We got it.
Now you can't see the cards, right?
Right.
No cards.
I don't know if you can do 2 different kinds of screen shares. I never tried that.
Okay.
Have you got the cards up in front of you?
Yeah.
Just hold them up.
Oh, that's true.
Only 2 cards.
Yeah. See, that just makes sense.
Could you just please put the sound down just a tiny bit though? Or I could put my sound down. That's okay. Never mind. I'll put mine down. There. That's good. That's great.
So that's the 5. And then 1. So here's 1.
Sorry. I didn't mute.
Oh, this point good. We'll do a couple more. All right. So I'm going to go back to, because the time really goes by on these things. Okay. So I want to show you real quick. So that's one example, right? One pretty easy example. If you get the cards, you get the code, then you can go to this page. Can everybody see this? This is the using flute choir cards page, and then there's a video on matching the flute with the key of the music. There's a how to read the track codes, because on the on the SoundCloud, oops, okay, running out of time. On the, where'd it go? All right. On the, I'm going to click down here. If you go to the backing track page, which is on SoundCloud, you'll see that all of these, and I hope you can see that. I know it's kind of small, but you can see all the music tracks are coded with the key of your flute first. So an A, just A flute. Here's a D, so D flute. Right now it's mostly A and D because that's the most common. And then you see the numbers of the cards in order. And then you might see a style or a song indicator, meaning it kind of matches that song or style. And then the tempo. So I'll give you another example. I just put this one up yesterday. I don't know if you can hear this, but let's try it. I might have to play it from my speakers. This is Pachelbel's Canon. Okay, so that's one time through the sequence. And this, you see, this sequence has 8 chords, which is why I recommend getting 2 sets of cards, because a lot of songs will have repeated chords, even though the one set has two number 1 cards, which is fine. A lot of songs have like 1 1 4 5 1 or something like that, or Don't Worry Be Happy has 1 2 4 1, for example. But if you have 2 sets of cards, you can play a lot more songs. But that's really nice. I think like something like Pachelbel's Canon, which might be kind of intimidating as a chord progression. But if you have the cards, you just lay them out in front of you and you don't have to worry. You can just kind of follow along. And then over time, you're going to start to remember which notes go with which chords. And then you probably won't need the cards after a while. They're just kind of like training wheels. And then you can move on, or maybe just use them, lightly. You don't have to concentrate so much. But that's basically what they're about. I like to use these for soloing. So if you want to improvise and you just want to have some safe notes to play, I'm going to go out of screen sharing. If you want to have just some safe notes that you know are going to work with each chord, you can use them that way. If you want to have a group of people, accompanying a song on their flutes, like the flute is literally like an organ, right? The whole group becomes the keyboard or the pad, and then you can actually have people singing the song. But instead of guitar, you can have flutes, the flute choir, which I think, and especially if you have bass flutes, it can be beautiful, right? You can have flutes in a couple of ranges, and they're all choosing which notes they play. And I think that's a point of these cards, is that you're not told what exactly to play, but that each person can choose. And the beginners can choose the notes that are super easy for them, and the intermediate and advanced people, if they want to go for example, here's a half hole note, and a few of the cards have this half hole And that's a little more challenging. So the intermediate and advanced players can go for that, and that's giving them a nice challenge. But the beginners have a really easy time too. So it looks like we have to wrap up, but that's kind of the point of the cards. Like I said, there's a nice video on my website that talks about them. I just think this is it fills a nice space for the flute player in between pure improvisation and having to read melodies, with traditional notation. So up till now, I'm not sure there was much in that space. So I think these fill that. So hopefully it'll free us all up to make more music, both individually as a soloist, but also in a group. Any last questions before we have 5 minutes on here, so we're okay.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't use it, but if you go into screen share down the bottom on the left-hand side, there's an option for sound and the visual thing, I think. But you can check that out later. But
Okay.
I don't usually bother using it. I just use the sound.
Okay. Let me see if I go in. Oh, I see. Share computer sound. Yeah, so I needed to click that.
You can experiment with that later, but yeah, that's probably what you needed to click. But
Yeah.
I do the other way because I never need to see both of those things. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
We're all learning Zoom more than we want to, more than we planned.
Well, it's really good for me. I had an auto accident in November and haven't been able to drive, and my car was totaled. So I hate to say it, but this has been really good for me.
Good.
There's some benefits, to anything that happens in life. So.
Well, yeah, you make the most out of your situation.
Lemonade.
Yes. Any other thing? Any other questions?
I got a question, Kalani.
Yes.
I just purchased online the choir card, and then it take me to your Kalani Music website and ask for, must be a password in order to go into somewhere. But my question is, I want to go into there's a list, the link to go into the soundtrack. How do you get to it? Can you send a link, or where do I get a direction?
Yeah, so the link is on the site, and somebody just emailed me and said that they clicked on it and it said it was not there or it was not accessible. And I went to SoundCloud, and the list was set to private, but it says on SoundCloud that anyone with the link can see it. So I was assuming everybody can see it. Apparently, maybe that's not the case. So I just changed it to public.
Okay. So you changed it. We can just go ahead and do it. Go in there.
Try it again. And if it still doesn't work, I'm just going to put a link to all the files, I guess, and you guys can just download them. I put them on SoundCloud because I thought, well, that's actually convenient, because then you can access it, from your phone or from your computer, or, you can basically stream it, because those are all just MP3s. They stream pretty well. And, but I just, I want you guys to have them. So if the link's not going to work, or if there's a problem with SoundCloud, then I'll just put the actual files up there and you can just download them.
Okay. Why can I not be able to hear you very well? Is that my computer, or you didn't turn the volume up?
I don't know. I think...
Is everybody can hear him?
You know what? Let me turn my mic around. It was facing my speaker. Sorry. How's that now? That should be better.
That's much better.
Okay. Thank you. We've got to wrap
figure out my computer speaker.
Yeah. We're managing technology. We do need to wrap up. But it's nice to see all of you. It's good to see you, Rachel. I know you came to some courses down here in LA, and I hope we can all get back to the live courses, sooner than later, and in Umbria maybe.
Yeah, may I just use opportunity to say a very big hello and thank you for all your stuff you're offering. I'm working so much with drum groups, and thank you.
You're all very welcome. Thanks for joining me, and email me with any questions or
Yeah.
anything.
Okay.
I'm around. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.